25 North Korean soldiers never made it out of their trenches, and it was just 8 Ukrainians in 2 Humvees that made sure of it. On paper, that should sound impossible, yet the battlefield looked very different once advanced sensors, remote weapon stations, and a HIMARS strike came into play. How can such a small team erase an entire enemy platoon without a single fatality? You're about to find out why this ambush now echoes as one of Ukraine's most shocking successes. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. What makes a Humvee, one of the loudest and most recognizable machines on the battlefield, seem to vanish in plain sight? That was the question the Ukrainian Rangers worked to answer when 2 of their vehicles rolled forward toward a zone laced with explosives. The patch of earth ahead wasn't just spotted with a few traps. It was thick with TM-62 anti-tank mines buried beneath churned dirt and dozens of butterfly mines scattered across the surface. One wrong wheel, one unlucky step, and the advance would end in fire before even reaching the enemy. Yet the order stood. The Humvees needed to push through, and silence was the only shield. The crews made choices that looked almost ordinary but carried huge consequences. Tires, instead of fully inflated, sagged lower to the ground. It wasn't neglect. The drop in pressure cut the vehicle's growl in half and dampened vibrations that could alert seismic sensors. Beneath that, the hull was shaped like a shallow V, not for speed but for survival. If a blast snapped upward, the force would slide across angles rather than crush the interior. Mounted on top, heavy steel arms held remote-controlled turrets linked directly to crew tablets inside. Nobody would have to climb out into open fire to man them. Every detail suggested these weren't just transports. They were fighting platforms designed to stay quiet until the exact moment of attack. Inside the cabins, the silence was broken only by data streams. Cisco modems drew in encrypted signals, feeding real-time information to Starlink receivers mounted outside the armor. Those sensors stitched live battlefield maps with second-by-second updates. Each operator carried a tablet, displaying shifting enemy markers, minefield outlines, and the route forward in glowing overlays. In effect, 8 people inside 2 muted machines stared at a live window of hostile territory without exposing themselves to any line of sight. That live link turned them into a unit that didn't just react. It predicted where to move before footsteps or tracks gave them away. At the front, crawling across the ground at knee height, moved a robot no larger than a toolbox. Its treads ground forward inch by inch, dragging sensors over loose soil. Each detection of metal or pressure hazard drew a tiny marker in the digital overlay. What might have taken hours with a sapper team, crouching and cutting, unfolded in minutes as a mechanical scout sketched out a safe ribbon through the minefield. By the time the Humvees rolled into position, those pathways stretched to within mere meters of the enemy trench system. Forward scouts from the North Korean side sat unaware, posted to spot movement or vibration in the dark zone. Yet what they heard was almost nothing. The creeping Humvees stayed under the threshold of noise most scouts were trained to detect. Low-pressure tires, flattened gravel, engines tuned down kept vibrations under sensor readings, and exhaust systems vented sideways into damp soil, 50 yards, 30 yards, then finally less than 20. Through periscopes and scopes, the Ukrainians stared across narrow gaps at trench lines, filled with men who assumed no threat stood that close. The effect was almost unnatural. Imagine vehicles, weighing 7 tons each, gliding almost silently to within rifle range and holding steady air against exploding mines beneath an enemy's feet. No alert, no signal flare, no scramble for cover, just stillness above weapons that waited for a cue. The Ukrainian Rangers had turned their Humvees into ghost machines, able to slide through layered defenses with near invisibility. But stealth would not win the fight alone. What came next could shatter that silence in seconds, and the trenches ahead would test whether technology alone could keep 8 men alive against more than 3 times their number. The North Korean platoon had the advantage from the start. Their trench was reinforced with wood, sandbags, and firing alleys cut to channel attackers. Behind them, an artillery battery sat cocked and ready, waiting for a single radio confirm to rain shells over the approach. Above, a drone circled in patterns, its optics soaking up the landscape and scanning for heat or vibration that might hint at enemy movement. Any 8 men attempting to charge such a position by conventional means would be erased in a short burst of rifle and mortar fire. Yet less than an hour later, this same line would be broken, its defenders scattered, and its artillery silenced. The change came the instant the Ukrainian Rangers pushed within striking range. The circling drone picked them up almost immediately. Its thermal feed locked onto the 2 vehicles, and within seconds, radio lines sparked. Enemy spotters believed they had caught an exposed push that would soon collapse in the open. Warnings were already moving up their chain. Inside the lead Humvee, screens lit with confirmation of being tracked. At that distance, cover would not matter. Any trench force, sure of their artillery response, could pin an 8-man team until nothing remained. For a moment, the advantage seemed to be slipping back toward the defenders. Then came the twist. A small box mounted at the rear of one Humvee powered on, its internal capacitors sending a surge through wide band jamming arrays. Crackling static sank across the airwaves. The North Korean drone camera, once a crisp feed, blinked out in gray noise. Radios inside the trench registered only bursts of fuzz, not commands. The artillery units, sitting kilometers behind, began to check their channels, unaware their forward observers had dropped silent. In one move, the platoon sat isolated, no longer linked to the larger system meant to protect them. With that advantage stripped, the trench line became the next target. The lead Humvee's remote weapon station hummed to life. A machine gun barked, its bursts carving along the trench top. Dirt and wood splintered, and defenders who seconds ago tracked approaching targets now dove low against their own sandbags. The second Humvee added fire, its bursts alternating to pin fighters in multiple positions. That suppression was not random. Each lane of fire was tracked against the digital overlay visible to the gunners. Every shot cut into spots the enemy considered safe for observation. Then, the machines added more tools. A tracked robot trundled forward, its grip dropping a small canister into a pocket of trench. The cylinder spun and released choking gas. Coughs, shouts, and the scrape of boots followed as defenders tried to clear eyes and lungs. In the confusion, another robot raised its mounted launcher, firing a single thermobaric rocket into a reinforced dugout. The blast collapsed timber supports, sending shock waves that rolled men against their own embankments. When the fight ended, the tally was stark. 25 defenders neutralized, artillery destroyed, their trench line abandoned in less than 15 minutes. Ukrainian losses stood at a single Humvee with a torn tire, still mobile even after the engagement. But as the Rangers pulled back from the captured section, the message was not about survival alone. It was about what small, connected units could achieve, rewriting what numbers meant on a battlefield defined by technology as much as courage. The lesson is hard to miss. Numbers alone no longer guarantee dominance. A handful of soldiers, using connected machines and precise tools, cut apart a force more than triple their size. It shows how defiance, when matched with modern systems, can bend the odds of survival and victory. But that raises a bigger question. If 2 Humvees and 8 men can erase a platoon, what does it mean for larger battles still waiting to erupt? Share your thoughts below. Was this a glimpse of tomorrow's warfare, and what other outnumbered fights could rewrite the battlefield in the months ahead?